Rahabat Moisar, and welcome to another live reading. Our scroll for today will be The Master's Secret, series number 6, entitled Factology of Time. And our Lahaj, that would be Akak Salil Wakut. All right. So before we get started, we're going to acknowledge our master teacher who brings us all together. We're going to acknowledge ourselves and each other. All right. So let's start by standing up. So now you're going to say, Apta Paa Taraq la Yerawuk Yaanun. Apta Paa Babaa Yaanun. Open the way to the soul. Rawuk, soul of Yaanun. Rawuk, soul, the breath of life, the spark of life. All right. That's that part of the soul, not the ba. The ba is the emotional seats of the soul. So the rawak is the spark of the soul. All right. And that's the breath. All right. So open the way to the soul of Yaanun. Open the door towards him. And notice that that door is inward. All right. The very soul of the people. And notice that door is inward. When we say who, we interchangeably use who with him. All right, him and who. Who being you, the creative force. All right. So you're going back to the very creative forces that who this universe, yourself. All right. So it's all about who you are and holding that connection, hold on to the rope. And not what you became. All right. After all these conditions and the many things that we've been through, our many cycles. It's about who you are. And our breath reminds us. So that lets us know that our breath itself is a prayer. All right. And we get back into the rhythm of natural nature. All right. And now you're doing rhythmic breathing as you tap into the support healing I should, because you say that to yourself when you need support, when you need guidance, when you need healing. All right. So you tap into the love, support, healing, and guidance from Paa Taraq. Our overseers are the very forces of natural nature. That's what we tap into, and that's overseas everything. All right. From our very formation of our nose to our very rhyme and reason. All right. That's thanks to Paa Taraq, the forces of natural nature that animates everything that we see. All right. Every reason. All right. Including ourselves. So now you feel the support and love. Now when you exhale, you breathe in that love and support. And then you're going to exhale that same love, support, and healing to your fellow brothers and sisters. And feel your hearts aligning through your breath. All right. The same spark, the same soul. All right. And you become a conduit of energy. All right. So that's why and then we breathe out, we breathe in and we hold it for a moment. And that's us, all right, absorbing the Sakem, life force, all right, that's the Sakem that permeates, all right, through every living entity. And it's most abundant in the air, all right. So that's what you see Orientals and their exercises, they're aware of it as chi. All right, the Hindus, they're aware of it as prana. All right, so you'll see all the natural races. All right, they are aware of the counterpart of oxygen. All right, so we, all right, as a mother and father, all right, of all living, you know it as Sakem. All right, so it's the same force. All right, and now you feel that peace, right? You feel yourself aligned. You feel your posture straighten up. All right. You feel your thoughts come back to the present as you work through whatever's stressing you in the future, whatever you're permeating in from the past. Breathe through it. Now you're here with your fellow brothers and sisters. Wherever you're feeling, whatever you're feeling. All right. Feel yourself relax into the moment through everything that ever was and everything that ever will be. And it's happening right here through your breath. All right. So you're doing so much work right in the physical with you're doing so much work in the etherical world right now with your physical body. All right. And now you feel yourself being more accepting, at peace with yourself. And you feel yourself being accepting with your fellow brothers and sisters or poets. They're all expanding, all right, all the components and articles and everything in its right divine place because you are in your right divine place, all right? So read the breath book because everything that I talked about, I got it from the breath book. Also, I got it from confirmations in my own life and living. All right. So we're going to take a moment to acknowledge our master teacher. All right. Who brings us together. Our master teacher who sits in this divine circle of Ashuk as our Zeti. Zeti being the very nucleus. All right. As we are circled around for the purpose of renewing our story as one people. Abdul Kalal Tapalorat Wufa Kor Bisamus Papot. Begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding. All right. Did you know that breathing itself is a prayer? And as we acknowledge our master teacher, that means we're automatically acknowledging ourselves in our one collective body. And if we're acknowledging ourselves, that means we are acknowledging each other. Feel the love and support from the very forces of natural nature and become a child of natural nature. Baror, baror, baror. Nabab nadar muqdad. Nahut muqdad badid patah. Nahut muklas badid yanun. Holy, holy, holy. As in the holy seed. Master Overseer Almighty. What is greater than poets? Or what can you take from poets? Because where would you place it? It all goes back to poets. That's our master overseer. Almighty, almighty, all. The mighty of us all living to our full potential as one soul, one family, one people. That is the holy seed. All existing gases. Now it's mugdad baded patah. Now it's muklas baded yanun. Or no God except patah. Why is that? Because patah is our nadar of opening. We have our mitzvah, our thing of opening, one of our sacred seats as Nagaru, as we are in the perfect design and perfect reason. And we become a thing of opening because we take the responsibility to respond as a natural impulse, a natural response. That's why we have call and response, so that we are always rhyming with nature. And we are a mukta, all right? We are one who opens, all right? Because the helping hand is at the end of your own arm. Because it is, Ashug is the key, but it is you who opens the door, all right? So chant for ourselves and each other. Paa Taraq, I affirm that I am in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. Paa Taraq. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk and Pa Pahuts. Wu Kalal Ashuk Kawun Jawef Neya. Anuki Kasamun and Pa Pahuts. Wu Pa Pahuts Kawun Kasamun and Neya. Anuki Wahu Ame Pa Pahuts. Wu Papa Kawun Wahu Ame Niya Nakuk Kado Naja Ame Kasam Em Papa Wu Chabu Ame Mushkas Nakuk Kado Kawan Kala Pafef Nakuk Ayo Jawef Papa Ame wase ame ayani kawun lake bako jawe papahuts anuki abedbi ye nafashni papahuts kawun anuki papahuts kador nakuk kador papahuts amol nakuk amol. Become timeless, all right? Become timeless as you go back to who you are, not what you became. And you could cycle over and over again in the very forces of natural nature. And as we do the Lahehum Maneh Nun chant, that translates in our Lahaj as for them from us. All right. So now we have a lot more depth to what that chant is and what we're saying and what we're affirming about ourselves. All right. So who are they? All right. When we say them from us. All right. When we say they are with them, they are with you all, and they are with us. They are inside me. They are me, and I am them. Oh, divine love and ray. Listen to us. We're talking about our overseers, Hanadaru, the very forces of natural nature. Oh, overseers, accept us. We are you all's children. All right. So become a Muntaru. All right. Flesh and blood. Extension of Nadaru. Accept us. Accept us. Our overseers, Nadaru Noon. All right. So let's take a moment just to acknowledge ourselves and each other in natural nature. Lahehum Manehnun Anhum Ate Karehum Anhum Ate Karehum Anhum Ate Karenun Anhum Ate Joef Niyah Antum ate niyahu anukihu ya ye ashukreye ashmo jayehnu ya ye nataru aufuknu nahum ater mukrarukum ya ye nataru aufuknu 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 ya ye natarunu anu atu atu amu Tawakum Nataru for accepting us. In the same way that we ask for acceptance, we are accepting of you. We are accepting of this guidance and this healing. We are accepting of our master teacher, who Nazula, who incarnated, was sent down for us from the very forces of natural nature for this day and time for the purpose of renewing our story. And we accept this healing. We accept that this scroll that we will be reading today, that was sent down for us, is the truth and the way. Panen misfak hawun, hasawabu Paa Taraq, ze kawunana zulala he amtkun. Manemos patwu masaa, ama hadea mumuda ma'u. Manemos lafuku, unataru, arjulaye nafashukun. Afukshane kawunkun. Hasawabu Paa Taraq, Pahadeamu Padama. Nahun Tahuanskun, Lahe Panenda Malwu Shafe. Nahun Tahuanskun, Lahetem Nasoinu. Nahun Tahuanskun, Lahe Ashakuma. Anskuma te muslafunu. Nahuna te mukrarukun. Nahun salud nasakuma. Nahun salud nasakuma. Ansanun kahenotaru. Ansanun muslafunu. Nahun ater muspatu. Anun atun. Atun amun. We are Sabians, all right, from all of our cycles, from our noon ray to our tomb ray, to our tune ray, to our moon ray. We're still here, and we've been here many, many times over, all right? And now it's time to round ourselves out. So here's our master secret, Factology of time, all right? This is the scroll we'll be reading today. A little bit about the author, Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher, known to us as His Excellency Malachi York Crime. Kobina means born Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD in Ghana, Africa. Those are Baaba's coordinates. And notice Baabaa tap in to the very forces of natural nature. All right. As one of his many hats is transmitter. All right. And transmitter means to deliver a message. All right. Like the very cells in your body. And notice that the scroll of eyes. All right. So as we come together to read these scrolls and open our mind's eye. All right. So feel free to unmute and to participate. And let's get right into our reading. And welcome everybody. The master teacher and the master secrets. Takak Shalil Wakut. That's Factology of time. For, by, and one. Another as a people. One. Light and fire are the same word as God of hell's fire. Two. In ancient Chaldea, Babylonian, Sumerian, Akkadian, Phoenician, onto Aramaic, Hebrew, and to Arabic, you can see in Hebrew, the word light and fire are the same. All right. For all right. That's the Hebrew. And you see light and fire is the same. So when you're saying the light of the world, you're talking about the fire of the world. All right. The flame, light of fire, Hebrew Strong's number 212. 3, as you read in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 24, verses 15. Glorify ye the Yahweh Lord in the fires. Hebrew Strong's number, or UWR, all right, or Ur. Hebrew Strong's number 217. Notice the word fires is used. Isaiah 24, chapter 15. Wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires. UWR. All right, because Baabaa is showing you how it's written in Hebrew. Even the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of the sea. That's the King James Version. All right. 4. And also, as you read in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verses 5, let us walk in the light, your light of the Yahweh Lord. All right. So you'll see them use light and fire interchangeably in their holy books. Again, you see the exact same word being used under Hebrew Strong number 216 as UWR. All right. So you have AWR or UWR. All right, same roots. UWR, lights of day, illumination, daybreak. All right, that's Hebrew Strong's number 216. 5. And also Isaiah chapter 31, verses 9. Zion, also known as Zuin, has in its fire. It also says in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15, the Yahweh Lord will come with fire, or fiery, flaming hot fire. Hebrew Strong's number 784. In Isaiah chapter 31, verses 9, it reads, and he shall pass over to his strong hold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the insight, saith the Lord, whose fire, which is UWR, Hebrew Strong's number 217, is in Zion, and his furnace is in Jerusalem. All right. So whose fire is in Zion and his furnace is in Jerusalem. Hebrew Strong's number. King James Version, I meant to say. King James Version. And then we have Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15. And it reads, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, and render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. All right. And you have Ish, or ESH, Hebrew Strong's number 284. All right. And Ish, or ESH, is interchangeable with ASH, as in ash. All right. So that's the Hebrew Strong's number 784. Fire, fiery, flaming hot. All right. For ESH. That's when you go back to the Hebrew Strong's number. Sometimes you'll see it AYSH. Notice how the same Hebrew lettering for fire and light are used, and then how they are used for man or mortal. Hebrew Strong's number 378 for Ayesh. All right. Ayesh means a male, to be a man or a fellow. All right. 8. So you see in the Bible, the Old Testament, in the Hebrew tongue, the exact same word is used for light and fire of the Lord, and Yahweh, Rab, Adonai, and Baal, a deity and a El. 9. It is taken from ancient language of Babylonian or cuneiform back to Ugarit, Akkadian, Phoenician, Aramic, Hebrew, on to Arabic. 10. These ancient Lahajats languages all have their root in Sumerian cuneiform, the the Lahajat languages of Anunnaki or Anunnakim. All right. So when you're dealing with cuneiform, now you know you're going back to the Anunnaki. All right. 11. In the Bible, book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verses 28, also chapter 2, verses 10, chapter 11, chapter 21, chapter 9, verses 2. The giants of Genesis in chapter 6, verses 4 through 5. And the list of names of the sons of Elohim are found on stone tablets. They are the same giants who came down to Kawak Taha, planet Earth, that are found in Sumerian stone tablets today. The Enuma Elish and the Gilgamesh, the Gilgamesh epics. All right, the Gilgamesh epics. I don't know why I'm tripping over that. The Gilgamesh epics and the Atrahasis, written in cuneiform, which contain the stories of creation. All right. So I remember I was reading for school. I had to read the Gilgamesh epics, and you see where a lot of the biblical stories, where the roots go back to, and who they're talking about. All right. So the Astrahasis, they contain, and they're written in cuneiform, which contain the stories of creation. All right, talking about the Adamite creation. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 28, it says, "Whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven. And moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakims there." That's in the King James Version. All right. So Anakim you actually see. And what did they say? That they're tall. All right. They were taller than these people. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 10. It reads, verses 10 and 11, all right? And then also 21. So verses. The Emims dwelt therein in past times, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims, which also were accounted giants as the Anakims. But the Moabites called them Emims, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. That's in the King James Version. And Deuteronomy chapter 9, verses 2 reads, "A people great and tall, the children of Anakims, whom thou knowest, and of whom thou hast heard say, who can stand before the children of Anak?" All right. So the children of that extraterrestrial. All right. As we learned that the Palladians are 7 feet tall. All right. And then the Draconians are 9 foot tall. All right. And as Bobby explained in Rich Scroll, the Melanite supreme race, all right, actual fact, that Bobby explained that the Adamites were how they were created, all right, and grafted from whom, all right. But we'll get to that. Genesis chapter 6, verses 4 to 5 says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, or Gibore, or Gibbori, or Jabori, which were of old men of renown. And God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every imagination of thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." All right. So it talks about these giants, all right, in those days. And then these beings, or these sons of God coming down, all right, to planet Earth, and also not just grafting children, but also having intercourse with these daughters of men, all right, or the Adamites. All right, so grafting and then also mixing. All right. In Psalms chapter 82, verses 1 through 8, it speaks about the children of the Most High, Anu or An, which reads, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, he judges amongst the gods. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundation of the earth are out of course. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men, and shall fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. All right. So remember those 200 fallen angels, or the ones who came down, all right, from Enlil's side. Who was the leader again of all of them? But there was 200 altogether. They all came down, and then they mixed with the women. And the leader tried to warn them that they shouldn't do that. And they reproduced, all right? And then they're reproducing. So now they will all fall, all right, like the princes. All right. And arise, O judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations, as they were coming for the purpose of colonizing, all right, and having dominion over the planet, all right. The Most High is Anu or An, all right, talking about their Most High, all right. So we're seeing the family tree. So that's the father with two sons, two different baby mamas, all right. So Elion El, that's El Alai, or, and you have it in Hebrew, Arabic, all right. So these are the two sons. Enki, all right, that's a title meaning Lord of the earth. And then you have Enlil, that means Lord of heaven. All right. And then the son of Enki is known as Murdoch. And then the son of Enlil is Nanar. All right. This Nanar, or Sin, Zuin, Zion, found in Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 1 through 9. As you see in verses 9, he pretends to be God in verses 13, was in the garden in verses 14 through 16, a cherub, and in verses 17, thy brightness. All right, so let's read this from the King James Bible, from the King James Version. Wilt thou yet say before him that stayeth thee, I am God? But thou shalt be a man, and no God. In the hand of him that slayeth thee, thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, and the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold, the workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes were prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so that I have set thee so thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stone fires. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitudes of thy merchandise. Thou hast filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and will destroy thee, O covering cherub. From the midst of the stone fires, thy heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee kings before. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. All right. So you have this being that's casting judgment, all right, on some other being, saying that the heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. So that whoever that he's saying or whatever they're talking about, is this being became very vain, all right, very arrogant, egotistical. So the wisdom was lost because of one's own brightness or one's own beauty, all right, and so they will be humiliated. So he's going to cast you down to the ground, and then on top of that, parade you in front of kings, that they're going to look at you, how low you are. So in 14, then in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12, the torch or lamp of the light bearer or Lucifer, on the morning light of Venus, the star, the light, the fire as the bright morning star. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12, it reads, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? In Revelation chapter 22, verses 16, it says, I, Jesus, have sent mine angels to testify unto you that these things in the churches. I am the roots and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. All right. So look at how, in one instance, Lucifer or Satan or whatever they call the devil is being called the bright and morning star. And now you have Jesus saying that he is the offspring of the bright and morning star. All right. So their God and their devil is the same thing. That's in the King James Version. All right. So their God, by whichever name, is of fire. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 14 reads, And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. In Psalms chapter 21, verses 1, it reads, that's the Psalm of David. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? All right. So the Lord is my light. And remember, light and fire is interchangeable. All right. Leviticus chapter 10, verses 2 reads, And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. All right. So the fire out of the Lord. All right. And then we have also devour. All right. Because what did they put on their altars? Flesh. And Matthew chapter 3, verses 11. I indeed baptize you with water unto repentance, but he that cometh after me is mightier than I, for whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and with fire. All right, Luke chapter 3, verses 16. It reads, John answered, saying unto them all, I indeed baptize you with water, but one mightier than I cometh, the latchet of whose shoes I am not worthy to unloose. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and with fire. In Luke chapter 21, verses 49 reads, I am come to set fire on the earth. And what will I, if it be already kindled? All right. So what will I, if it already be kindled? So he's coming to send fire to the earth. But he's saying, but what if it's already on fire? All right. Or kindled. So what will I, if it already be kindled? It's already burning. All right. Hebrew chapter 1, verses 7 reads, And of the angels he saith, who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers a flame of fire. 16. So he comes and goes. In John chapter 2, verses 2 reads, to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So Job chapter 2, verses 2 reads, and the Lord said unto Satan, from whence cometh thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. All right. So you just have two extraterrestrials having a conversation. 17. A God or Allah, of what the Quran chapter 10 verses 3 says. He rose up to his throne from earth. And Job chapter 38 verses 31 reads, canst thou bind the sweet influence of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? All right, that's in the King James Version. All right. Talking about star systems, physical star systems that actually exist. All right. And Psalms. All right. In the Quran, chapter 10, verses 3, it reads, indeed, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and then established himself above the throne, arranging the matter of his creation. There is no intercessor except after his permission. That is Allah, your God, so worship him. Then will you not remember? So we talked about before of these various extraterrestrials, specifically the Anunnaki, coming here and working on various projects, and they didn't always agree. All right, sometimes they would have civil wars amongst each other. All right, Job chapter 9 verses 9, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. All right, you have 3 different star systems mentioned here. All right, so it's not random that these are being mentioned. All right, that's where it's going back to. That's the King James Version. And Psalm chapter 11 verses 4, the Lord is in his holy temple, the Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. All right, so even think about the verbiage. If God is the creator of everything, wouldn't everybody be his children? How could you have sometimes children of God, sometimes children of men? All right, so you have this Lord, his throne is from heaven. All right, so outside of terror or key. All right, so an extraterrestrial. Doesn't mean he's good, doesn't mean he's bad, for example. Just means he's from another place outside of Earth. Isaiah chapter 66 verses 1, it reads, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye built unto me? And where is the place of my rest? And Acts chapter 7 verses 49, heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will ye build me, saith the Lord? And what is the place of my rest? In Daniel chapter 7 verses 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garments was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. The throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. In Matthew chapter 19, verses 28, it reads, and Jesus said unto them, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And Matthew chapter 25, verses 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. Revelation chapter 3, verses 21 reads, To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and I am set down with my Father in his throne. All right, that's supposed to be, I guess, the word of Jesus. All right, so you have all these extraterrestrials passing themselves off as gods. Bible says that actually they laugh amongst themselves. All right, they pass themselves as Paa Taraq. All right, but in actuality, they're just another being having trial and error and all those politics and having to work within the confines of natural nature. All right. So 18, he has a seat, all right, a seat in the Quran in chapter 2, verses 255. And where is his throne according to the Quran? Chapter 53:49. All right. So let's read Quran chapter 2, verses 255. It reads, Allah, which is the God of the Arabs, there is no exception. There is no God except He. There is no God except He, the living, the strong. He does not doze and does not sleep. His are what is in the heavens and in earth as the source, who can intercede on his behalf, except by his permission. He knows what is in between his hands and what is behind him, and they shall not encompass a thing from what he knows except by his will. His throne extends over the heavens and the earth, and he does not tire in the guarding those two. He is the Most High, the Supreme. All right. So we learned about the difference between the Omniverse and the universe. All right. So the Omniverse is actually giving birth from the Omniverse. Omni, because you can hear omni, all. All right. Omni means all powerful, all present. All right. And then uni means one. So all verse and then one verse. That's how it translates. Omniverse and universe, or Wahu Makwan, and then Kale Makwan. All right. So you have different, and that's the difference between you have Omniverse, which will be Paut, all right, and then you have universe, which will be Pa Paut. What's the difference? Paut just deals with all right. There's no up, there's no down. It just is all. When you start saying Pa Paut, you start talking about the constituents or the components. All right. The man, the chair, the woman, left, right, up, down. All right. Over here, over there. All right. That's in Pa Paut. So you see the many movements and particles. All right. And you have a component. So now you have a component because you see the behavior. He knows what is between his hands and what is behind him. All right. So that already tells you that he's not omnipotent. That's not an omnipotent being. It's a being that's sometimes present, and then sometimes he's not seen. He's not seen just because he went somewhere else. He came down to go check up on the people. Adam, how did you know that you were naked? All right. Wouldn't he be all present? All right. So now you see that these are clever games. So just by even our Lahaj, it helps to open our mind, because when you say Pa, you start putting articles to things. When you're saying Paut, you're saying all. All right. There's no throne. There's no up. There's no this. There's no outer space. It's just all. All right. And it's all, then you start having all the components being grown out of itself. The different conditions are starting to come. All right. So even when they try to separate like heaven and earth is still a component of heaven because it sits in space. All right. And everything is intermingling. All right. These particles, and it's all communicating. All right. So if you remove earth, you're going to have a whole different structure. All right. It will cause what you would call a star holocaust because everything is in balance. All right. So you have some beings that are more knowledgeable exploiting other beings who aren't as knowledgeable. All right. As one of the many components. So this God is one of the many components to out. All right. So let's read that again and you can see. All right. Quran chapter 2 verses 225. Allah, that's the God of Arabs. There is no God except He, the living, the strong. He does not doze and does not sleep. His are what is in the heavens and in earth. As the source, who can intercede on His behalf except by His permission? He knows what is in between His hands and what is behind Him. And they shall not encompass a thing from what He knows except by His will. His throne exceeds or extends over the heavens and the earth, and He does not tire in guarding those two. All right. So His throne extends over the heavens and the earth. All right. He's putting Himself in a place and time, and He does not tire in guarding those two. All right. The whole fact of even separating, because now you see how they had cut off their creation from being part of a bigger picture. And that's what they do. They confined others to a box that they put in to control them. So He does not tire from guarding those two. And He is the Most High, the Supreme. All right. So the moment you start saying Most High, you already know that you're already starting to break things apart because you're having comparisons. Because if there's a Most High, then there's going to be a lowly or a least high or whatever, whatever the opposite would be. You start comparison. All right. And the omnipotent being, there's no comparison. All right. There's no being the Most High. If you're omnipotent, you're not the Most High. That would be too limiting. All right. To explain what you are. All right. But when you start breaking things apart, maybe this might be more valuable to me than maybe this. All right. And then this will be most high of this group, because I have different things here. So the most one, it would be this one, or the most knowledgeable amongst them. Okay, it would be this one. But there's things that's existing outside of that most high. All right. So Quran chapter 53:49 reads, and surely He, the Arabs' God, who's called Allah, He is the master of the Sayyir, or the Sirius star constellation. All right. And that's translated translated by Asaid Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi in 1970. 19. It is in the Paa Taraq. That's the Sirius star system. All right. Sabat's Sirius star system. It says, and surely He, Allah, is Rab, Master Lord of Ashira, Pa Shabbatat. That's the Sirius star system in Arabic. And in Hebrew, it is Sayyir. This Sayyir is none other than the devil, the Baphomet, and can be found in the Hebrew language in Leviticus chapter 17, verses 7, which reads, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. Sayyir, Hebrew Strong's number 8163. All right. So Baabaa underlined sacrifice unto devils. and then he put in parentheses next by in commas. Let me see, that's comma or parentheses. What do you call that when this? What do you call this symbol? I forget. It looks like a C, and then you put. I drew it here. What do you call that symbol? And then you put a word inside of that.
Is it parentheses?
Is that what you call parentheses? What do you call this then? Oh yeah, that is parentheses. So what do you call this? What do you call that symbol when you're quoting somebody?
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks. All right. Tower hat. So parentheses, right. I appreciate that. All right. So in parentheses, you see sacrifice unto devil, and then parentheses he has Sayer. All right, because remember Baabaa speaks and reads the languages. So he's showing in their language what it's written as we speak in English. So they put sacrifice unto Sayer. All right. Hebrew Strong's number 8163. After whom they have gone a whoring, there shall be a statue forever unto them throughout their generations. All right. So through their generations or their genealogy, all right, statue, all right, or an agreement. So they will no longer sacrifice to those beings after they have gone a whoring. Because remember, this God is jealous. So don't sacrifice to those beings. Sacrifice to me only. All right. And these extraterrestrials are always having territory wars. All right. And remember, they tell their creation to go and have dominion. All right. Dominion over others. Our Nathalu tells us go have harmony. All right. So respect it. And you have harmony for everything has its place in time. Not having dominion. Because when you go have a dominion, you start taking the natural ecosystem out of its natural order. All right. So you see that these extraterrestrials, they cause this disorder, and then they blame their creation for what they created. All right. So they disrupted the ecosystem by all this gravitation and inserting themselves in a story that really they had no business doing. So we're left with we're cleaning it up today. All right. So in Psalm chapter 106, verses 37, they sacrificed their sons and daughters to devils. All right. Also, again, in parentheses, Sayer, Hebrew Strong's number 8163. Again, you're going to see it in 2 Chronicles chapter 11, verses 15, which reads, and he ordained him priest for the Most High, and for the devils, Sayer, Hebrew Strong's number 8163, and for the calves which he had made. So Allah is Anur, the light. All right, Anur means the light, and the Quran confirms him as fire. In Quran chapter 24, verses 35, a lamp. And in the time of Muhammad, who lived 570 through 632 AD, was only lit by fire before electricity or electrical lights. All right. So whenever they're talking about the light, they're talking about fire. Because even when you talk about the light of the sky, we know that the sun itself is a fireball. All right. In the Quran, chapter 24, verse 35 reads, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of his light is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is within glass. The glass of it were a pearly white star lit from the oil of it, the blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow, even if untouched by fire. Light upon light. Allah guides to his whom he wills, and Allah presents examples for the people, and Allah is knowing of all things. That's from the Siha International Translation of the Quran. All right. So it's giving you a whole description of a lamp, all right, from its very design into the oil, all right, that's being used for the lamp, for that burning. So they're using olive oil from the olive tree, all right. And they're talking about the power of that light, all right. 22. And you see in the same verse, which is verse 35 of chapter 24, where it is plain to see the root letters R, N, and R. The root letters N, R, R illuminate by fire. All right. So you have Anwar, that's the light, and you have Anar, the fire. All right. And it's spelled ANNUWR. That's the light. And then you have AN and AAR, the fire. All right. So the root is N and R. As you see, Nan means master. Nar means fire. All right. So now we're talking about Nanar, the son of Enlil and Ninlil. That is their God, their Allah. All right. So there's a specific extraterrestrial. All right. Or a person sitting in that seat. All right. For the master Nan and that Lahaj, master means Nan means master, and Nar means fire. So you have master of fire. Same way you have and Ki, and is also meaning master. And Ki means earth, for example. All right. So these are titles. So you see this particular Nanar. That means there could be more than one Nanar, all right, because there can be other masters of fire. So as you see, Nanar, master of fire, Nanar, son of Enlil and Enlil, that is their God, Allah, Rab, Al-Shadid, or El-Shaddai. 24. And he is found in stone tablets of Sumeria, and the Quran states it. The Quran is from stone tablets. In the Quran, chapter 85, verses 22, right there you will see it, and it reads, inside a protective guarded stone tablets. All right. So that's from their own Bible. From their own Quran. All right. Referring to, so you see in their own Quran, they're referring to stone tablets. All right. Which would mean these stone tablets will be older than their Quran because they're writing this Quran referring to stone tablets. All right. 26. So the Quran confirms it. It is from the Sumerian stone tablets, which guarded the true Sajjal records of who and what the God and gods were, as well as where the Gadad, God or Allah was, as in up in Patatats, heavens above, Pasabatats, Sirius star system on his throne. All right. So he even said that he's sitting in Sirius star system, for example. Now, that might be confusing. Now, Sirius star system is a big system with many different planets, a lot of different things going on. All right. Like, for example, we know that we have the Shaggies over there as well in Sirius star system, as well as our Zimatatu, our sisters. All right, that's where we come from, Sirius star system. All right, so that might be a little bit, but there's many things going on, same way that we have many different star systems. All right, different things happening. All right, so 28. And that's why we see why it's so important to be able to get the vagueness, so we start to ask the proper questions. Because when you change one component of a story, just one slight shift, you have a whole nother different being. All right. So the right conditions, meaning you're respecting all the facts about that condition. All right. So you're no longer living by faith. You're living by fate. All right. 28. And how this Allah is Anwar, or the deity, or Lord, as a light. That is why Allah, or Allah's 93rd attribute is Anwar, the light. All right. And in the Quran, many times he is called the light of the heavens, and Taha, earth, which you know is Pa Shamash, the sun. All right. So you hear Allah being referred to as a light of the heavens. And now that we are more educated, all right, which we always had that information when we go back to our ancestors, but as we got mixed up with their stories, and that they came down for what purpose? To create a slave race. All right. So when you have a slave race, you don't need to have them to know all these things. They could just believe that the sun is rising and that the earth is flat and then it's setting. That's fine. All right. You could control them better. All right. They don't have to know that there's a whole intricate happenings. They just need to know that, well, Allah said, let it be, and it is. And that's all you need to know. All right. But now it's becoming common knowledge. Let's just say it's becoming common knowledge throughout the planet from whatever creation you're from, that we know that the sun is actually a ball of fire itself. All right. So 29. And the Quran, many times he is called the light of heavens, and the Taha, earth, which you know is Pa Shamash, the sun. 30. The sun is 93 million miles away from earth. So you see Allah's 93rd attribute is the light. The light of the sun is 93 miles away from the Sumerian deity Nanar, as it is Anar or Anwar. All right. So you see Nanar sounds like Anwar or Anwar. All right. So Anwar means the light, Anar means fire. Nanar, master of fire. All right. Master of deception. All right. So that's where they get their white magic, because they play with the light. When you play with the light, you can play with the appearance of things. All right. And you can even blind with the light, because if you're facing the light, it distorts what you're seeing. So you don't even know what you're looking at, for example. Or playing with the light, you can make a hologram. Things can appear. So you can, on the particles, you bounce the light off of, and then you have this being that looks very real. All right. And it looks so real to you, and you can't really tell the difference between what's actually there and what's not there. And that is by the power of light. All right. So that's why we don't stop with light. We don't do fire worship. Now we acknowledge light for what it is. And we respect the many components. But we also go behind the 9 ball. We go behind the 9 ball. Now you know what Babaa was saying when he said go behind the 9 ball. You go as animus. You go through the forces that are animating the very life that you see, the very things that's playing out. That's what animism is. Animism means that you go and animate. All right? Animal. All right? So an animal is anything that's animating energy from one point to another. All right? Or moving. Animate means to move. All right? And some animations can be just a trick of light. Some animations can be real. That's why you go behind the 9 ball, you ask the questions, or you get to know not just how things appear, But what's the constitutes that makes that appearance? What's the story behind that? All right. Because sometimes you can go out and different conditions can sometimes make an appearance that looks very similar to each other. All right. But it's actually a whole different being, but the appearance looks very same. So if you're not sure, you go behind. So what I mean by that is I went to a museum and they were showing two different snakes, all right, that they looked identical and they were in the same habitat. They put them both in the same habitat. But those snakes, even though they're both snakes, but they had a whole different they both were green, like a bright lime green. They both had a very similar body, similar face. So you would think that they grew from the same creations, but two different sets of creations led to that same appearance. So the reality, there could be one or two things that's a little different, but they're similar enough uh to be very they can fool you. All right. So you go behind what led to that. And you're gonna have two different natures present side by side. All right. So what one might prey on might be different than what the other preys on. All right. Although they look identical. So that is the power of light, the power of deception. All right. And that's what the Anunnaki taught the Adamites. All right. And that's what they depend on. So let's go back to this fire god. 30. The sun is 93 million miles away from Earth. So you see Allah's 93rd attribute is the light. And the light of the sun is 93 million miles away. So the Sumerian deity Nanar is Anar or Anwar. 31. One and the same deity. It is recorded on stone that is Nanar, also called Sin, and in Hebrew, Kata. All right. Kata means one who sacrifices are made, or one of sacrifices. All right. So one very consuming. As you see in the Bible, Genesis chapter 4, verses 7, father of Cain by Eve. All right. So Nanar and Eve is the father of Cain. All right. So Eve is shown to have two baby daddies, one with this Anunnaki and one with Adam. I mean, one with Adam. All right. So Adam and Eve, their child will be Abel. All right. So you see in the Bible in Genesis chapter 4, verses 7, the father of Cain by Eve, and it reads, if thou dost well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 2, also called Zuin, or Suin, or Anzu, or Zion, left earth in the year 610 BCE, and it reads, and Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. All right. Baabaa he underlined that part. I have gotten a man from the Lord. All right. So this deity Nanar, as found in the book by a Jew named Zechariah Sitchin, entitled The End of Days in chapter 13, when the Gadadu, gods left to high earth, he translated the cuneiform stone tablets and pillars found in Turkey, Haran, Lebanon, and Baalbek. Zechariah Sitchin recorded in the book when Nanar left earth for Sirius with his Ikiki of Anunnaki, or his cherubim of Elohim, angelic beings, and was to return from Patat's heaven back to Taha, earth later. All right. So he left and he comes back. All right. And think about it. from what you can remember of Genesis, when Nimrod was building that tower, and these extraterrestrials came down and said, let us go see what they're doing. And then they said, oh, they are united, and there will be nothing that would be able to be kept from them. So let us go and destroy what they're doing and divide their tongue and babble their tongue. All right. And separate them and spread them throughout the planet. All right. So these beings, when you go back and read the Bible, sometimes they don't know what's going on. They had to come and check it out. All right. And when God was walking through the cool of the day, all right. So now God can feel the cool of the day. All right. So it sounds like the sun is probably going, it's setting. The sun is setting. It's a little bit cooler time of the day. All right. And that's when God's walking. So he could feel the cool. So he has a nervous system because he can feel the cool of the day. He has legs because he's walking. Right? Wouldn't God just be all knowing? So how can he walk to a place or walk through a place that he already is? But in the Bible, that's called cognitive dissonance. All right. So you see the facts, but for some reason you ignore it. That's called cognitive dissonance because it was always there. So God is walking through the cool of the day, and then he says, and then Adam and Eve, they're like, oh, God's coming. Let's hide. All right. So they hide, and then they put. So in reality, they can feel or see or hear God coming. So that means God isn't all present, because shouldn't they have been ashamed to even be doing what they were doing before God got there, if God was all present? All right. So it's just a more powerful, all right, being than them. That's all it is. All right. That comes and goes. All right. And when God goes, they do what they want. All right. In that story. All right. So this Lord, called El Yahweh, the Lord God Nanar, or El Shaddai, Exodus chapter 6, verses 23. That is Anor or Anwar and his angelic host with him. All right. Angelic host. All right. So his entourage. All right. So we're going to just, because they use all these holy talk to just kind of make you more spooky. So when you say angelic, all right, you can interchangeably say angle, or you just say angelic, because they always depict angels coming from down, up, and then coming down. So extraterrestrial. So his extraterrestrial entourage, host. All right. So his group, his posse, his entourage. All right. So you had Anar with his extraterrestrial entourage. All right. Or angelic host with him. In Psalms 82 verses 1 through 8, and he did return as Jah or Rab or Lord. In Psalms 68 verses 17, the chariots of God were 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So you have a group of 20,000. The chariot of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. All right. So thousands of extraterrestrials. And then the Lord is among them, their captain. All right. Or the Lord of that group. All right. So maybe amongst his entourage, he's just another one of them. But that's the Lord of whoever group he's coming to. All right. So is he the Lord of the other extraterrestrials, or just one of one of the extra crew? Or is he the Lord of the extraterrestrials, or just the Lord of the Adamites? All right. It's not specified in this verse, but he has an entourage. All right. So Psalms chapter 68, verses 17, it reads, the chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels, the Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. All right, that's the King James Version. Nanar, and thousands of heavenly hosts came down, confirmed in the Quran, chapter 97, verses 3, which reads, the night of power is better than 1,000 months. To give the final book for Adamites in the Quran, chapter 3, verses 33. Indeed, Allah chose Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Abraham over the worlds. All right. So it's a specific branch. All right. That this Allah or this extraterrestrial. All right. I'm going to choose you and whatever you produce, that branch, over the entire world. All right. So that's me claiming my jurisdiction. All right. So that's what this extraterrestrial is claiming in this verse. All right. So when was this? All right. In the Quran, chapter 93, verses 3. The night of power, as they called it. All right. As they call it, the night of power. Nana came down himself as Ar-Ruah. Ar-Ruah. All right. Ar-Ruah. Baabaa, the soul, the spirit, just as his brother Enki did in Genesis chapter 1, verses 2, as Rahuk, soul, spirit. All right. So came down through soul, spirit, as we learn to do in the breath book. All right. Rahuk, which we know is the breath spark of life, and how you can actually learn to astral project, for example. All right. So Nanar came down himself as Ar-Ruah, or Baabaa, the soul, the spirit, just as his brother Enki did in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, as Rahuk, soul, spirit. He came on the 9th month, 19th day in the same year as he did 610 AD. He sent a Gabor, or a Gabar, or a Jabbar, who was an El, all right? And he became a Gabriel, or Jebrael, all right? So it's a El. All right. And he was a Gabori, a Gaborite. So, you know, he's from a specific, like those groups of 200 that came down, all right, who were tall and mighty men. So Gabriel, all right, became Jibrael, an angel, one of them with him that night until morning or dawn. Revelations chapter 22, verses 16, and Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12. All right. Now I'm also remember that Gabriel came to marry as a well-proportioned man. Well-proportioned. All right. You could take that in many ways to mean many things. But another thing you could say as well-proportioned typically could mean a tall person. All right. That can also mean a tall being. So he came as a Gabbar. He was an El. He became Gabriel, Jibrael, an angel, one of them with him that night until morning or dawn. In Revelations chapter 22, verses 6, and Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12. Lucifer, son of Anu, Nanar, son of Anu, a grandson, yet still a son. All right. So Nanar is like their president of the Anunnaki. That's not your most high. All right. That's the Anunnakis. All right. And remember, there's other ones that try to kill him, try to take his spot so that they can become the president. They have coups all the time. They turn on each other, rivalries. This brother, he wants to be the next in line This one says, well, I want to be the next in line. All right. So 41, Gabriel, who can incarnate into Jasad flesh, form, appeared to Muhammad that night while in a cave outside of Mecca in Arabia as a bright, shining, illuminated light. He, along with other angels, guided by Ar-Ruh, that's the soul, spirit, Anwar or Nanar. The Sumerian records on the stone states that Nanar left Taha Earth in the year 610 BCE. 43. Also recorded in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, verses 12, and also chapter 9, verses 9, as Yahweh, Baal, from Baalbek. It's recorded like this. It was the 16th year, 16th year, 610 BCE, of Nabopolassar, ruler of Babylon, when Nanar, also known as Sin, and which is also called Lord, of the Anunnaki, God, became angry with his city, Babylon, and his temple, Ehoho, abode of pleasure, of joys, and went up to heaven. All right. Specifically, heaven, that's very vague. So it's specified. He went up to heaven, a specific place, to Sirius, and the city of people, Babylon's. Hold on, let me read that again. And the city and the people, that's the Babylonians, it went to ruins. All right. So he abandoned them. All right. So he was angry, and then he said, bump it. And he just left them. All right. And then the city went into ruins. Kind of like what's happening now. Okay. Because Bible said that the Adamites here, they've been abandoned. All right. As of, there was no more extensions for them. And now we see their society falling apart. Look at all of these plane crashes. All right. The whole infrastructure is falling apart, all right, because it was extraterrestrial technology that these Adamites can't keep up with. I saw someone unmute, Aksam. All right. So anybody, if you have something to say, feel free to unmute. We'll continue, all right. So 44. So Nuwapians, it's recorded, Nanar, Allah, the light, left Earth for his throne in heaven in the year 610 BCE. That is the 16th year of Nabopolassar rule. All right. So look up what was going on in Babylon at that time. All right. 1610. All right. And if you want to take time, research that on your own. And then it will coincide with the movements and what's going on to get more information for your soul. So he, Nanar, returned with his heavenly host in the year 610 AD. That's right. So 610 BCE. All right. That's already 610 years. And then 610 AD. That's another 610 years. That's 1220 years. So he came back 1220 years later. All right. So he, Nanar, returned with his heavenly host in the year 610 AD in Arabia. So it is recorded on stone tablets that this Anunnaki, who himself is an extraterrestrial, was born on the planet to Enlil and Ninlil. All right. That's his parents, extraterrestrial. All right. And that he departed this Kawak planet in anger because his Enlil's brother, his uncle, Enki, returned from Afafre Ka, Africa, with Cush, and his son Nimrod and his followers, Nuwapians, speaking Nuwapic, from Napata, Tahum. All right. That is a Tahite tongue. All right. So Enki didn't teach the Tahites that language. Because remember, Enki mixed in with the Tahites. All right. So your healing isn't coming from Enki, it's coming from your Tahites. All right. So Enki mixed in with them. All right. So he tied into our vine because we were already there. Enki didn't create us. We were already there. All right. Now the Adamites, they were created, they were grafted, and then also mixed in with. All right. For us, there was already beings here as the Tahites. And we had many visits. All right. And the Anunnaki is just one of the many visits. We had visits even before them. All right. Or before this group. So he was upset. All right. Talking about Nanar. So he departed this Kawak planet in anger because his Enlil's brother, all right, Enlil's brother, which is his father, Nanar's father, his uncle, which would be Enki, returned from Afafre Ka, Africa, with Cush and his son Nimrod and their followers, speaking Nuapic from Napata, Naftatum. That's a Tahite tongue in First Chronicles chapter 1, verses 11. Naftatum, the Nuapians, with Wu Nuap, our way of life, in Genesis chapter 10, verses 13. And Misraim begot Ludim and Anamim and Lehabim and Nephtahim. All right, those are the children being born. All right, the 4 children. All right, from Misraim. And First Chronicles chapter 1, verses 11. And Misraim begot Ludim and Anamim and Lehabim and Naphtahim. All right. So we're talking about different mixtures coming about, being pulled out, because you see different beings from the Adamites, even the Anunnaki tying into the vine. All right. And then you're going to give birth to unique combinations. All right. And it branches off and the family tree extends. So now you see how the Anunnaki story into what is it called? Where it starts to overlap with our story and how that started to happen. All right. But that's why Bob is not taking us to the Anunnaki. Bob actually has said, I'm trying to breed the Anunnaki out of you. All right. All right. So 47. And with this Lasan tongue, they vibrated on their own tone and were able to block out the radio signals from Enlil. That's in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. So that Enlil was not the voice that whispered in their minds in the Quran chapter 114, verses 5 through 6, as they now do once again. All right. So they were starting to remove themselves, all right, through the protections of the Tahites. All right. So I would say that what Enki was doing was probably, I don't know if Enki approved that, but well, his seed was already mixed anyway. But he was supposed to be working on behalf of the Anunnaki, but he goes in, starts mixing with the beings already here, and then starts having children. All right. So that I would call that borderline treason. All right, because they're kind of sabotaging the Anunnaki agenda. Right, because they're starting to remove themselves. All right, off of that radar. And then you could see throughout the world, all right, a lot of beings, they use sex or mixing in with the people as warfare. All right. So when you go and go to parts of Africa, I went through different tours of like slavery tours and different things like that. And what they will purposely do is that these beings, all right, same with these extraterrestrials, some of these extraterrestrials, these alien forces, let's just say alien, meaning outside of us, whether it's from Earth, grafted, extraterrestrial, that sometimes what these beings would do is that they would go and mix with the people that they want to conquer to create these hybrid seeds. All right. So you have Arabianized the seed or mingled it, right? Because Arab just means mingled, mixed with what, right? First Arab, that an example of it. When you have Abraham, the rapist, that raped Hagar, the Egyptian, gave birth to Ishmael, all right? And that'll be the first Arab or the first mingled seed, as an example. But that's happened over and over. So they will have this new mingled seed that they will want to work on behalf of their conquering fathers, all right? So that's why they always take us back to the forefathers, who are typically the rapists. And then they go and then they mingle the seed. They mingle the spirituality, all right? They confuse the records. And then they have the mixed children doing the bidding of the oppressive forces. But some of these mixed children blocked out that radio station and said, no, we're going back to our Tahite tongue. All right. We're going back to our African roots. And this angered the Anunnaki. All right. So it doesn't just happen on extraterrestrial. You can see it happen in, I went and I did a whole tour in Ghana. It was the same thing. And it kind of puts into perspective how sex and mixed seeds is used as warfare. And they would purposely impregnate some of the Africans, and then they would have this mixed child, and they would take the mixed child and put them in a new system, give them take them away, put them in a nice system, teach them how to read, indoctrinate them and everything like that. So now the influence of the genetics is there, and then also the influence of the mind. And then they will have the child do their bidding on behalf of them when they're gone. All right. And that happened throughout so many places. That happened in Australia. All right. To where they will do so much bidding that they now pretty much wipe off they feed their own family line. And so it's empty. All right. Then you see no evidence of the original African or even Australian roots. That happened throughout the planet. All right. So that's what they do. It happened in Haiti. All right. But there's always that genetic war, that inner fighting. All right. That happened in the genes. That's happening to us right now. All right. But it's our time again to finally redeem ourselves. All right. Because Bible calls us half souls, and some of us work against our own interest and want to be accepted. But the reality is that they'll never be accepted. They're just used, and that's it. So, 46. And that he departed this Kawak planet in anger because his father, Enlil's brother, being his uncle Enki, returned from Afafreka with Cush and his son Nimrod. All right. So when Enki was in Africa, all right, as an extraterrestrial, all right, he returned to Mesopotamia from Africa, Nimrod, right? Nimrod would be half African himself, and he would be half Mesopotamian. So Nimrod is mixed, all right? But Nimrod goes back to Mesopotamia, all right, speaking his African tongue. That started to wake up the other people, because he started to teach that to the other ones. Even some of the Adamites were getting off the broadcasting system, because Mesopotamia, we were back and forth in there as well. All right. A lot of that fuzzy wuzzy that we learn about, that they had a very warlike nature, and they're known for being in East Africa with the big fuzzy here. That's us. All right. That's our mixed versions going back to Africa. All right. So they done got mixed. then they became a new tall, fuzzy wuzzy. All right. Or they had bigger, curlier hair. Not as tight. Their curls weren't as tight because they got mixed already. So that's that whole story. But they're going back after being woken up because they were waking up and waking up that African DNA, getting off that radar. All right. Like a lot of us, when Baabaa met us, we were pretty much Eurocentric wannabes. All right. We wanted to be Arab. We wanted to be anything other than self and kind. All right. People who mistreat us. All right. Some of us still want to be that. All right. Because the genetic imprint is so strong. But nonetheless, a lot of us is waking us up. All right. And we're going back to our roots. And that's where the healing is happening. All right. So you see it happening, you know, I was giving examples how that happens in daily life. So now Nimrod, he's going back to Mesopotamia to pretty much wake up his other mixed seed to bring them back home, all right, or bring them back to their own state of mind again, all right. So 47, with this Lasan tongue, they vibrated on their own tone and were able to block out the radio signals from Enlil in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. So Enlil was not the voice that whispered in their minds, all right? Now they're not in a foreign mind anymore. They're back in their own African minds. You can't control them no more, all right? So in Quran chapter 114, 5 through 6 reads, and they do as they do now once again. Back then with Nuwapi, they would block their whispering into our Akkad mind, the wild evil and Jawedness, wickedness. All right. So we were able to block out those interferences. All right. So you have many branches that branched out, and the venom has gotten into your family line. It's already there. You can close those doors. All right. You're able to block out there because a lot of times you have this bad thoughts. All right. Evil, wicked nature, jealousy, competition. All right. All that was bred into you. Wanting to be something other than self. All right. So now you're getting back into your own right mind. So now Baabaa says that they didn't really succeed. Nimrod didn't. They were in the beginning. That's why in one of our language books, Baabaa says we had to finish what Nimrod started. All right. He started it and it was starting to work. But these extraterrestrials said, not on my watch. So they went harder and did a good job in scattering the attempt. All right. So now they put us back on their frequency. All right. Because their job was to have dominion. But in order to affect, you have to first infect. All right. So they put various beings under their influence by giving them the mark of the beast or the genetic markers, which many of us have nowadays. All right. Genetic markers we know now is the mark of the beast. All right. So Quran chapter 114 verses 5 through 6 reads, he who whispers into the amnesia mortal beasts from the genetically wicked race of people as well as the amnesia mortals. All right. So you have, and that's from the translated from the Asaid Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. All right. So you have two types of beings that's under the influence. You have some that are wicked by their very grafted, weak nature. All right. So Baabaa said Caucasians, for example, or just say Adamites, Caucasians, they have no psychic self-defense. There's no psychic self-defense. Baabaa says they have no mind. Why? What does he mean by that? Now we see what he means by that. Because they're a genetically wicked race. Because the genetics themselves are defective. All right, because it was grafted. I take a little of this, I take a little of that. And we know when we start distorting, you change one thing, All right. You may not want to start grafting and doing that because it's going to make you out of tune. Naturally, you'll be out of tune naturally. All right. And then you have another as well, mortals. All right. People who have forgotten. All right. So you have one that's cut off because they're all chopped up and grafted, and you have one that's blocked. All right. It's easier to deal with the one that's blocked because you can't unblock. All right. Because the connections are still there. It's just blocked. For the wicked race, there's no unblocking because if you unblock, it's still broken anyway. That's broken DNA. So you have us being affected because we're being blocked. All right. By interferences. All right. So I have this connection, but now I also have this, and I'm getting two signals. And my original connection is being drowned out by this new connection that's giving a totally different message. Now, for the genetically wicked race, for example, their connection was unplugged a long time ago anyway. So they just get whatever plugs into them, that's just what they're going to do. All right. For us, we had to fight. All right. And that fight is not fighting each other. That's really fighting to be your best self. All right. Which is not easy. And you have the help of your Tahites. All right. That's who's helping you, not the Anunnaki. All right. So 48. So when Enki, Murdoch, Cush, and Nimrod returned to Babylon speaking a new tone, Enlil was angered. 49. He lost rule over the minds of the people and did not regain control until 610 to 632 AD. All right. So it took him 12. That was, they were fighting hard. All right. So Enki, I guess he went against his Anunnaki program. All right. So about 1200 years later, all right, they was able to get control. The Anunnaki was able to get the control of the minds of the people again. All right. And they doubled down that religious spell. All right. So a new Rake Shalil Hajal spell of ignorance. All right. So now you've seen the facts, but let's start ignoring the facts. All right. Kill, kill, kill. This is nothing more than blind faith as Muslims, the world over, Christians and Jews, all under Nanar, the light of this Tapal world. So Nimrod set to build his own radio tower or Takan obelisk to reach Anu himself. In Genesis chapter 11, verses 4, he set out to reach Neberu in the Patatat heavens above the mother plane. And this is the story or his story of Babel. All right, the Quran. In the Quran and Bible. All right. So you have all these different beings. All right. So you have the president. You have the president of the ship. Let's just call him the president. You have Anu. That's the Most High. So he's wanting to reach that craft. So Nimrod makes sense because Nimrod is part Anunnaki. So he wants to go and deal with Anu himself. And he's like, I don't need to deal with you, Enlil. I don't need to deal with you, Nanar. I can make my own connection. I'm going to talk to the president myself. All right. So he was building a tower. And he's set to reach out to Neberu in the Patat heavens above. All right. And it's so funny. Like, that's why we read these scrolls, because you can see the Anunnaki genes. And nature is strong in the tribe. All right. I would say we're more Anunnaki than Natharu. All right. When somebody's doing something, do we want to collaborate or do we want to compete? Do we want to be the best one, the most high? Do we just want to see everybody win? All right. Do we want to be important? Bob's going to pick me. Bob cares about me more. Or do we want to say, we are, this is, if we're all interconnected. All right. We got a lot of Anunnaki genes. All right. And it's so funny because when I first came around, you had so many people they wanted to be so important. But I just at the time you could write Baabaa. I wrote Baabaa directly. I have my own link to Baabaa. And also, I'm not saying you have to necessarily write him because Baba's mind is in the scrolls. So you can see how Baabaa thinks and what he came to do. All right. And people hold on to, well, I got to eat a meal with Baabaa, but they don't even take time to see how Baabaa thinks. And they feel they're more important because they touch the physical man. All right. And then they hold timelines. And we know that the closest point or the fastest point between 2 points is not aligned. Because some points are so far, by the time you travel that distance by a line, you'll be dead. Because it just takes too long to get there. So the quickest way to get there is not through a timeline, it's through a resonance, it's through a vibration. All right. So once you vibrate, that vibration finds its like it finds its like vibration, and they all vibrate. All right. But some people want to keep you on timelines because then they can play these be important games. All right. And now it's like, I'm going to give you this message, but you got to do what I say, and how I like it. And one thing Baabaa wrote me in my letter, and I have it and I can show, but I will probably one day. But he said, be respectful, but don't kiss anybody's butt. All right. So you don't got to respect anybody who doesn't respect you. All right. I'm not saying disrespect anybody, disrespect yourself. I'm not saying that. But, people want to hold time and this and that. And things that you know that they don't study, or they just have a very wicked nature. All right. And want to control others. The reality, you have to control yourself. And even when you control yourself, you're respecting yourself in your place and time. So there's no threat by somebody else's place and time. In actuality, wisdom lets you see how you benefit. All right. So, that's why I started reading these scrolls, because so many people like to just sit up under somebody else because they were lazy. All right. And then they would be abused and exploited. All right. Rather than making a connection to their own mind, and they could respect each other. All right. So that's the backstory. But you could see the same nature playing out over and over and over. All right. So let's read that again. So Nimrod set out to build his own radio tower, or Takan obelisk, to reach Anu himself in Genesis chapter 11, verses 4. And he set out to reach Nibiru in the Patatats, heavens above, the mother plane. And this is the story, his story of Babel in the Bible and the Quran. All right. So Nimrod didn't just try to keep that to himself. He also went and he was teaching his fellow brothers and sisters that you don't need to take that. Why don't you also learn the language yourself? And he was teaching others the language, and so many people were being removed off of that control. All right. This really pissed off the Anunnaki. All right. In Genesis chapter 11, verses 4, chapter 11, verses 4, it reads, and they said, go to, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad the face of the whole earth. All right. So let's come together under one agenda. All right. One culture. All right. So he, Nanar, Yahweh, Allah, left Earth in 610 BCE and was able to return in 610 AD. All right. So that's a whole 1220 years later. That Shanut year, with updated Babylonian teachings, you see the Zamut day 1, perfected, completed for you. Your deen, right there in your deen, right there in the Quran. Their last Mublar, Mubgar, that's messenger. Their last messenger and message was Amun Bed Abdullah. All right. 570 to 630 AD. All right. So they would be formulating this message. The last hope, the black-headed or dark-furred seed of Abraham, the Arabu, the Arabs, from the Adamites or the Adamites, the yellow or light-headed, light-furred seed of Adam, the Caucasus, the ruddy race, the cursed seed of lepers, in Leviticus chapter 13, verses 1 through 59, with yellow thin hair is faror, fur. All right. Same thing over here. When you really look around, all right. Notice in the last 10 years, you don't see advertising with blonde hair, blue eyes anymore. All right. They understand they're losing their hold. So what they're doing, they're putting the neutrinoid seed. All right. Because as we get tired of looking at the Caucasian, maybe we'll, mix the Caucasian in with others that you want to control. Mix the Caucasian in with others. Have them look a little Asian. Have them look a little maybe blackish, you know. So that's what the Arabs are. Their last hope, right? Their last message, all right. So they had to put a little flavor on the message, all right. So 56, and this God Nanar or Anor, the light of the heavens and the earth in Genesis chapter 1 verses 3. The light birthed Tashash, chaos, from that Rakut's time onward. In Genesis chapter 1 verses 3, it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. All right. So what is the nature of light? It is to divide. All right. Because light, when you look at that triangle, you have a point. All right. You have a point, and it disperses outward, because that's the way light goes. And as it disperses outward, it starts to divide into a spectrum. All right. Then you give birth to a rainbow. All right. So as you go away from the source, you start dividing further. All right. So that's what God said, let there be light, and there was light. 57. He was none other than the devil himself. Remember it be Allah, Rab, Rahman, Elo, El, Ella, Ela, Lil, Yahweh, Jah, Adonai, El Shaddai, Ashad, Shadid, Baal, God, Lord, Dios, or Theos. These are no more than titles of the same beings, just different dialects. All right, so maybe if you go, I don't know, you go to China, you might say emperor. We don't really have emperors, so closest thing that we might have is a president. All right, some other places you might have a king. Maybe president is not the best example, but those are examples. That's a title. All right, and it makes it seem like they're different beings, and they're just titles. All right, so Genesis chapter 11 verses 7 through 9. Let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all earth, and they left off to build the city. So they stopped building the city. And therefore, and the name of it is called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from there did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all earth. All right. So now let's put this in recent terms of how we could see that. So we're talking about extraterrestrials saying, oh, they're united. We got to go down there and divide them. All right. That's when Caucasians and even Arabs, all right, or whoever, all right, when somebody's going to conquer, one thing that they use a lot, all right, they had to use going to scatter the people. So you start dividing them. All right. A good way to divide them is you start mixing in with them, because you start mixing in with them, they will look a little different. Then they will have their own agendas. All right. So it's like, I'm a little light skinned. I could do this. The Willie Lynch letter is very important. All right. That's actually an extraterrestrial book that you see that the Anunnaki back in Sumerian times, they use it. All right. Sumerian tablets are older than the Willie Lynch letter, but the Willie Lynch letter is the same structure. All right. And the Willie Lynch letter, it was supposed to be a book that was presented to the white slave owners of how to create a slave race or a new Negro, all right, that would enslave himself for time to come, all right. And because the white slave owners realized that, you know what, maybe we are outnumbered, all right. So there was a certain plan that was given to them, all right. It included rape, it included torture, it included a lot of things, all right. And then you start dividing them by their age, because when you give everybody their own personal agenda, so we're no longer working together, we're going to be working for our own personal interests. So I'm going to work on the personal interest for somebody who's caramel colored, not too dark, not too light. This is what I want. The light skin agenda, dark skin agenda. You have all that. All right. They start to divide up themselves. All right. They're no longer unified, and then they give up their project, and now you can control them because it's all about divide and conquer. So now they all working for their own interests, and now you can have control over those type of people. That happened world over. All right. So when you look at the way that they go and collapse society from the inside, that's the workings of what the Anunnaki did in this Nimrod story. It's the same thing. All right. So 58. None is the exact, and the only Rana name. You see, the name is ism, a a noun. That's meaning a noun, a person, place, or a thing that can be anyone or anything. All right, isms. All right, colorism, ageism, racism. All right, genderism. All right, so that could be anyone or anything. All right, the moment you start making them forget, because you start making them forget, you don't see the intricate inner workings of powers. You're no longer being directed to power. That's why that's our most sacred symbol. The all, well, all is our most sacred symbol. All right, because we could all respect our place and time. All right, and I know when to step forward. I know when to step back. It's not my time. I step back. I know how to bow gracefully. I know how to come forward. All right, that's when you remember powers. When you don't remember powers, you're just out of tune. You're offensive. You want dominion. You got to be the star of the show all the time. All right. That's not the way nature works. All right. So none is the exact and the only Rana name. You see, the name is ism, a noun, person, place, or a thing. That can be anyone or anything. They don't know what or who they are worshiping. He is unseen to them, just a title. All right. So it reminds me when I was first learning the language, and I remember it was Mugdaltat, such and such. And somebody had asked me I was like, oh, what's your name? And then she was like, oh, I'm Mugdaltat, such and such. And then somebody else said, oh, I'm such and such. And then another person said, I'm such and such. And then later on, I was looking for the old woman. I was looking for the woman. So I was like, I didn't remember her whole name. But I just said, oh, such and such, I'm looking for it. And then they was like, who? I said, Mugdaltat. And then they were just like, which one? I just kept saying Mugdaltat. And it's not a name, it's a title. All right. It means elder. All right. But to somebody else, maybe they never heard that language, they're just going to say Mugdaltat. And they're like, oh, blessed be Mugdaltat. All right. Now you say that's a very vague thing to say. All right. So blessed be Anu. Blessed be the Most High. There's so many different ships coming down. There was more than one Nibiru itself. There was more than one Anu. All right, as far as different times, who's sitting in different seats, and you're just calling out to something you don't even know what it is, you don't know where it is, you don't even know why it is. Why? You know, there's no sensibility. All right. They say we don't know where he is, just upward. All right. So he went to heaven. Look at how much bigger space is to the planet Earth. Earth is just not even a little spot. You can't even see it. If you were to put Earth and put a spot and stand out and say, oh, he went to heaven. It's like, that's like if you say, where you going? And somebody says, I'm going out. All right. That means mind your business. You know, if they tell you that, you just say, I'm going out. That's very vague. So now now you're going to just go out to nothing. Like, where are you going when you die? I'm going out when I die. I'm going to heaven. Like, what does that even mean? All right. So you realize you don't even have a destination. All right. These are the trick of the fire gods. All right. So they say we don't know where he is, just upward. They say they don't know what he looks like. It's just a Ka spirit. They say they don't know how old he is. They claim no one knows. Yet it's right in stone tablets that are now translated. All right. You could read it right in school. You can go rent it from the library. All right. It's translated. And not only is it translated, if you want to go and spend time and learn another language, you can also read another language. All right. So these facts are out now. That's why Baba said that a lot of the wars that we're seeing that's happening in these places, these Mesopotamia, modern day, what would be ancient Mesopotamia, you see a lot of the wars are happening, and it's not really about oil and all that. A lot of it is really about destroying these tablets that are being exposed, because it's exposing a lot about the Adamite seed, and they don't want the world to know, but it's coming out anyway. So in reality, they're having wars where they're having a lot of findings about their own history, and they're trying to destroy it. That's what Baba has said, that many of the wars are really about. So verse 65, we're on. Where is it from? When he came, when he left, 610 BCE. When he returned, 610 AD. And he left that morning at sunrise. The Quran 97 verse 5 says, safe, secure, peace, it is until dawn. All right, Isaiah chapter 14 verses 12, and Revelation chapter 22 verses 16. Quran chapter 97 verses 5. Peace it is until the emergence of dawn. All right. So now you know what time of day it is, peace. All right. Or calm. The emergence of dawn. So he's telling you a time of day. All right. He returned on June 6, 1966 AD. Nanar left and then returned again in 1999 AD. All right. Now listen to this. In another update, Baba has said that in Trump's, he said this 10 years ago. That's why I thought, not 10 years ago, at least 8 years ago. 10 is too long. Maybe eight years ago. And Trump was in president. He was the first presidency. And that's why I thought that I thought he was going to have 2 consecutive terms. All right. So Trump was there, and then Biden, and now it's Trump again. But before Biden became president, Baba said that in Trump's second term, he has been tasked to build the tower for Nanar. All right. So Nanar supposedly returned on Trump's presidency. All right. Nanar, and look at what Trump is doing, putting prayer back in school. and all this other such. All right. I'm not saying that the other extraterrestrials that Kamala was working for, neither of them were good for you. You was in trouble until we are doing what we need to do for ourselves. We at the mercy of whatever extraterrestrial, because you saw some of these extraterrestrials, they were fighting amongst each other. But that doesn't mean that they were necessarily for you, because you could, just because there's a devil fighting, sometimes it's not a god and a devil, so to speak. It's not good and bad. Sometimes it's two devils fighting that have nothing to do with you, and it's up for you to get out of their way. All right. So I can tell you Kamala wasn't for us as well. All right. We could read more about that. Her agenda was a different stance, but it was still diabolical as well. So Nanar, all right, he's coming down to feast. All right. So he returned. So let's read what it's going to say. He returned on June 6, 1966 AD. Nanar left and then returned again in 1999 AD. He is here now in the world, and this is why you see so much killings for him, mostly by Abraham's religion, be it Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism. They worship Nanar, yet they don't know him. In John chapter 1, verses 4 through 10, and in 1 John chapter 3, verses 1 through 2. All right, you could read more about Nanar worship. So in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12, it reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations?" All right. You're going to see it's going to get even more bloody. All right. That's being done by design. All right. Revelations chapter 22, verses 12. Jesus have sent my angel to testify you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. All right. So who is this bright light that they're worshiping? All right. Nanar, the raptor. All right. In First John chapter 4, verses 10, it reads, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in the dark, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, and all men through him might believe." All right. I like how that seeing really is believing. All right. Seeing isn't knowing. And Bob explained that later on. I'm explaining to you why. All right. So they may bear witness to the light, that through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. All right. Why did I say seeing is not knowing? Seeing is just believing. Because you're dealing with demons of light. Right? And you play with the illusions of light. Things can appear very real until you go and confirm it. You go and touch it yourself. All right. Because as Baabaa said, there's going to be some extraterrestrial invasions. We're going to see it within our lifetime, probably within these next 4 years. All right. We're already seeing it. The beings are already here. However, Baabaa said that you're going to have mock extraterrestrial invasions. You're going to have real extraterrestrial invasions. They're going to be happening side by side. And you won't be able to tell which is which. Because the way that they're going to do it, he used the Tupac concert as an example, because Tupac has been dead a long time. But they used a hologram to make it look like he was performing on stage. All right. Baabaa says that if you look at the burial again, remember at the bottom of the craft, there was a little laser at the bottom of their ship, and it said hologram laser. Go back and look at the holy tablets. And you can see you can project holograms. All right. Not just that, you have satellites. You have a lot of ways you can even project holograms from within. So it can appear very real. And you can have a real craft right next to with an illusion of a craft. So seeing is believing. All right. Because I had seen something in it. I saw what I was like, I was walking down the street and I really saw a craft and it was going right above me and it was going to, and I was walking, I was grabbing people like, you see that? And this guy's like, get off of me. Because I didn't know anybody. I was walking. He's like, get off of me. He was like counting his money. He was doing something. I was like, why is everybody so angry? Nobody wants to look up. I was like, I was trying to get somebody else to look up. Then I just said, you know what? I'm going to just take a picture. And I took a picture. Just looked like a little light. However, I remember that update. And I would never say that I saw a craft that day. Because I don't know if that's a craft. I don't know what I saw. I just know I saw, let's just say I did see a craft. But what kind of craft? Was it a hologram? Was it, something extraterrestrial? Was it terrestrial? I don't have enough facts. All right. So I know enough to say I don't know. All right. Belief will make me want to be like, I'm so important. So I can go around and tell everybody I saw a craft. The reality is, until you confirm it, you don't know. So you have the science on it, you don't know. So the reality is anything can be projected. All right. Why somebody projected, I don't know. All right. Was it real? Was it not? I don't know. All right. I know enough to know at this point to know when I don't know something. I need more facts. That's all I can say. All right. So in John chapter 3, verses 1-2, it reads, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. The same came to Jesus by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher from God, for no man can do these miracles that thou doest, except God be with him. All right. A lot of these things that we're taking up as miracles today, we have illusionists that show how these things are being done. All right. For example, I saw there's this guy, it looked like his neck was over here. And way, way, way down the distance, I saw his body just floating and just looked like his neck was separated. But it showed it was because of the angle and displacement, because, like, for example, when you have water, all right, his body was underwater, his head was above the water. And then you put some type of reflective thing, and depending on how it's curved, because if it's curved, it's going to curve the light and it's going to shift the image from right here where it's located, and you might think you're walking into it, but the image is actually over there. All right. So the visible image is here, but the physical image is way over there. All right. So you can see that just by understanding basic physics. Even chemicals can alter the way things appear. But just by understanding basic physics, you know how you can make certain appearances. All right. This might appear that it's floating, or this appears bigger than it is. All right. Or how come when you're walking towards something and it's very far away, it looks like it's going more further away the closer you get to it. All that's explained with physics. All right. And what we passed off as miracles. All right. You're just playing with the illusion of things. All right. And then you create a whole religion, and you have some people right amongst us that they don't appreciate being questioned because you kill the illusions and they resent you for that. You're supposed to just accept it. All right. If you ask a question and somebody said, could Baba say that? That's not Nuwapu. All right. That's not Wusabat. All right. Because it's explained. Wusabat Nuwapu is explanations, diagrams. All right. Descriptions. All right. It's not just say, oh, why do you put that braid on that side? That's our culture. That's not Nuwapu. That doesn't tell me anything. All right. Somebody could say, why do you kill babies? That's my culture. Anybody could say that. All right. You had to explain, all right, where the facts, all right. And when you start to do that, you disrupt the controlling entities because you start disrupting the illusions, and that pisses people off, all right. But do it anyway because that's your soul, all right. So 69, they are making all kinds of these sacrifices to their overlords to try to appease them as they have turned their backs on them. All right. So they're trying to appease. That's the whole thing. They were abandoned. That's why Trump has Elon Musk, who's working on trying to get to Mars. Bible said it won't be successful because they're actually trapped here. All right. And the only ones that's going to go is if you're going to be just going to be their food or to be some slave. But they're just trying to hope to find their glitches in their system. All right. But their time is up. All right. So this is why they're making the sacrifices to call their overlords back and to show that we're still needed. We're still important. I'm talking about Adamites talking to their overlords. You still need us because the overlords are saying we don't need you anymore. We're going to deal with. That's why they're trying to get into us because they're like, okay, the Adamite seed is rotting. Their time is over. So the new agenda is to create this neutrinoid, all right, and have us doing their bidding, all right. So now they're like, we don't need the Adamites. However, the Adamites see their marks are in us. So some of us, but the reality is the sun cycle is going to wipe off anything that goes against unnatural nature. That's why we're getting this time to fix ourselves up, all right. But that's the Caucasians trying to still be relevant. So that's why all of this sacrifice is happening. They're trying to be relevant to their overlords because they're not relevant anymore. So 69, they are making all kinds of these sacrifices to their overlords to try to appease them as they have turned their backs on them. 70, they have cut them off, and the only broadcast are those from residuals. The God of light and fire has no control over them and no effect on those who have gone over to the ways of the Adamites. All right. So they're not even communicating with them. That explains why all their technology is breaking down. Why they can't go into outer space. Why there's a lot of things they can't do. Because the reality is that this is extraterrestrial technology that the Adamites they have been making themselves as great, and they're not. Michelle Obama said they're not as smart as you think they are. She said I sat in these circles, and a lot of them are not as smart as they portray themselves to be, or is that you think they are. All right, or they have us doing things. All right, because remember the Anunnaki, they even had to go to get they had to go to Egypt as well to fine tune their grafting, all right? Because Tahuti, they got some of how to, because remember the Anunnaki, as they were grafting, they were making a lot of mistakes along the way, and it took them a while to perfect the being that would be good for their job. And they even got help from the Tahites that was already here, all right? Because we had already done it. All right. So like the Caucasians, they put themselves as the greatest, and we founded America. All right. When in reality, when you start getting to true history, you start realizing that everybody was already here. All right. Because you have the Asians who have a much bigger boat. All right. I think his name is Shu Hen or whatever his name is. But he was existing at the same time Columbus was. And his boat, the Santa Maria, that was the biggest European boat at the time. But the Chinese boat was much bigger. All right. And that guy, the Chinese guy, he was actually Muslim by religion, Chinese by nationality. He was here. All right. So, for example, you see everybody's evidence of being here before the Caucasian. Everybody's evidence was here. So the Hindus even was here, all right, before the Caucasian. Africans, of course, they were here, all right, before the continental drift and after the continental drift, all right, and then also during slavery as well. But before the continental drift, Africans were already here, So how they made it seem like they discovered this land no one else did, and everybody already did. They were the last ones, same way they were the last ones into existence. So now with these Anunnaki, all right, that put themselves as so great compared to other extraterrestrials, they weren't even here that long compared to other extraterrestrials. All right. So you see the games that have been played. So even these Anunnaki made themselves to be greater than they actually were, just like the Adamites that they created. All right. So 70, they have cut them off, and they only broadcast from residual. All right. So whatever they get left over. And it's like these Adamites, they're calling out into nothingness and they're not getting any help and support anymore. All right. So you have been calling on the creators of the Adamu, Salah, the Adamite race, and they have no concern with you. All right. That's not your business. We need to get off their frequencies. All right. You must give them back everything that they have pushed upon you from their image, their desires, their lusts, their dress, their likes, their dislikes. Return it all, and you will be free. In John chapter 8, verses 32, 8 verses 32, it reads, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. All right. Without beginning and without end. All right. Why? Why do we say without beginning, without end? After reading the scroll, because with the factology of time is that we don't start telling our time from light. All right. We go back. And one of our master secrets, and one of the earlier master secrets, is actually our center, or the center of the masters, is actually darkness. All right, which predates light. So now you're saying without beginning, without end. All right, because whenever you're saying fire, you're dealing with births and deaths, and anything that can burn can be carbon dated. All right. So now you're dealing with 666, or 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, carbon. All right. And it burns. And then you could carbon date things that have lived and then they eventually die. All right. So you're in the realm of mortality or conditions. All right. And then we go beyond that, because what gave birth to that? All right. So we go before that. All right. And we go back to the waters of noon. The waters of noon has no birth date. All right. You can't find how old water is, because water is always on a journey back to itself. It just changed states, and that's our story. All right. So that concludes our scroll for today. All right. And here's our own symbol as a sovereign people. All right. We have it here on of the West, and even further back to Africa, because the original, which is the Washita Nation, which Yamasee, Baabaa explains, is a branch of the Washita Nation, right? The Simile Washita, all right, Yamasee Creek. And the Washitas on record is the oldest extraterrestrials. I mean, extraterrestrial. I meant to say the oldest native group, and they get their claim. They get their very claim through Africa. All right. So even Empress Medici, because she became sovereign on record in 1992. All right. So now you have Baabaa coming right behind as a branch right in the Washita of the Yamasee Nation. All right. 1993. All right. So you can't validate the Yamasee story without validating Africa. All right. Because you can't validate Yamasee story without the Washita, and the Washita validates themselves through Africa itself. All right. So we're old people, we're timeless people. All right. And we're getting back to who we are. So that concludes our scroll. Does anybody have anything that they like to clarify or talk about, or ask, or something that they were sparked that they want to share? that can be helpful to the rest of us, feel free. Okay. So yeah, it is a lot to take in. It's a short scroll, but it's full of a lot of information, and it's great that we were reading other scrolls such as Good and Bad, which helps this scroll. It supports the scroll. Kakasu, all right, was an important scroll to read as well. They all go hand in hand. Uh, God of Light and Fire, all right.
Bro, man.
Oh,
Ooh, got
Rahman.
light fire too. One thing that pointed out to me was the fact that it all started in Africa. Like that brings volumes to like everything that anybody says when it comes to like who was the first people here, or like who was the first people in existence.
Right.
So yeah.
I think it was the God of Light and Fire. I think it was, or it was Kakasu, one of the two. Um, and Baba says that there's no extraterrestrial that how did he say it? There's no extraterrestrial anywhere from anywhere that is more powerful than the Tahites. All right, because the Tahites themselves is uh the natural growths of uh it's in perfect tune and perfect harmony. So the reality is that where everything is grown, it's in perfect rhyme and reason for where it is. All right. So that's why the Tahites was used to liberate. All right. And that's where we go back to. All right. And that's why we have to get over this extraterrestrial superiority complex a lot of us walk around with. Like, I'm superior because I'm not from here. And reality is that uh, all beings that come here have to show their respect in some shape or form to the Tahites. All right. And the Tahites themselves, you talk about the natural growth cycles because you go into Sirius and Orion. And when you look at the formation of the planet, how planets are actually formed from other planets and older suns and older cycles. All right. So you're still interacting. Just because you say Tahite doesn't mean that you're blocked away from the rest of the universe, because we know that the universe uh, continues to interact. There's particles and vibrations that's being given off all the time. So these particles interact with each other. All right. They upgrade each other and they send signals. It's almost like what you call panspermia, where it sends signals and impregnates each other. All right. So the moment you get in meteorites, you have all these natural exchanges that happen through planets anyway, right? Whether if I'm a being, when I'm coming across something and I go into another place, I'm bringing the information of everywhere that I ever was with me, all right? That happens with comets, that happens with rocks, that happens with beings, all right? Extraterrestrials, all right? So, so it's nothing like being directly connected, going back to the source uninterrupted. All right. So that's our story. All right. Uh, Anybody else?
Tour. Uh, the first feminine or the first Pataites were feminine, right? Or wrong?
I'm gonna back pocket that because there's so much information that's still unfolding. Um, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say yes from certain things that I've read, but there's so much information that I'm still unfolding, so I can't definitively. But from what I've read, it will be yes. But there's so much information, and when I go back and look again and respect, and I'm like, what does that even mean? You know? So, so
Right,
for now,
because
yes. Hmm.
based on what the Zamal was just saying, it made me think of that reality, and would the name Ta'ites be coming from the being Ptah that we view as a male, right? the being in the blue cap, or would the being in the blue cap be a product of the Ta'ites that were already in existence as feminine, that is said based on the size of the X chromosome and things like that, that said that the feminine was in existence
Mm-hmm.
thousands, if not millions of years before the creation of the male. And so it just made me wonder if Ptah was a male existing before that particular period of those millions of years that produced the size of the X chromosome and those particular Ptahites, right? And would they be called Ptahites after the deity Ptah, or was the deity Ptah? It's just something I'm formulating, but yeah, it just something came to mind based on the interaction or the conversation y'all was just having. But like you said, I guess we could back pocket that, right?
Right. So, when you talk about peoples, those species, they typically, for example, a doe is a female deer. A woman is a female male, or female man, right? Because when you say man, you're talking about women and men. When you talk about deer, you're talking about the doe and you're talking about the deer. Uh, when you're talking about, let's see another creature that does that, lion. The lion and the lioness. All right. So even though even in the stories they say that the woman was created first, or the woman was taken, all right, and created, even Ninti, the mother of all living, they still call it man, you know. So when they're talking about this whole species, they usually put it in a masculine form. And in even reality is that in many languages, including our own, all right, when you say nadar, for example, you're already including nadar tats and nadar tatu and nadaru, because we have feminine forces, we have masculine forces, but we just put it as a masculine. And also, when you have in Spanish, even when you say niños, you're saying children, but niños translates to English as boys, all right, because niña is girl, all right. So when you say niña and niños, so if you say women, that's very specific, because a man is not a woman. But when you say man, you're not specific, because a woman is still considered a man, because it has all the components that man has and a little extra. So when you say niñas, because if you say a group of girls, you don't. If you say children, and there's one boy there, they still call it niños. If there's like all girls, they don't say niños. They say niñas. They're very specific when it's all girls. So when you say Ptahites, all right, it's telling you that a Mupta would be one who is a Tahite. A Mupta can be a female, a Mupta can be a male, all right? But there's jobs that a lot of the times women could do, jobs that men and women could do. But there's jobs that men can't do as women, all right? But we start fine tuning, all right? So you can have a female. So if you say Ta is a deity of opening, does it have to have a penis, or can one who opens have also a vagina? That's something to consider when you just think about how we are trained to relate to the construct of language itself. In most languages, uh, the neutral term of most languages is usually masculine in most languages. So a masculine terminology can still be feminine. In many languages, a masculine term could just be masculine. In most languages, a feminine term is only feminine. It's not interchangeable. So that's another thing to back pocket. And I remember Bob is saying that English is going to limit the lessons he can teach, because some lessons will not be taught in English. And that just gives you an example how uh, how it's like when you say niñas. A Spanish-speaking person could get a certain message without me having to explain all that before an English person can get that same message. All right. So these are things to back pocket, and it just shows, that's why Baba said, I remember him saying, I don't know how you guys have so much time for drama. You have so much to like don't you have studying to do? Like I remember him saying that in some type of update. Like there's so much to unwrap. How are you guys having time to sit down and even have drama? All right, you should be so too busy. So, but those were good points, and that's just to say I don't know, but these are things to consider, and which one is older by the chromosomes. The X, even the X itself shows that the Y can be pulled out of the X, but the X can't be pulled out of the Y. All right, or the boy can be pulled out of the girls, but the girl can't be pulled out of the boys. All right, same thing. Anybody else? And we're going to read another scroll sometime this week, I think, maybe Thursday. Thursday we're going to get together and read another scroll. I'll leave the chat unmuted for today, and then I'm going to share this reading that we did. I'm going to share this tomorrow. Just so I'll share it tonight. I'll share it tonight after I mute the chat, so that maybe the chat can help us pick another scroll if anybody is too shy to say something now, or they have time to think about. Yes, on Zamatat, her seed.
Right, babe. Zamatat, just wanted to say thank you for making time always for these readings. You just break down a whole lot as far as this doctrine and the scroll, and it does a lot of unwrapping, and I would say my mind inside, try to trap who, get the person or the being to, come forward. Some can be so like pressed down into this world and trying to make their way up. And I can admit that, reading these scrolls is really turning my life around for the better. So I do appreciate you making time for us out here that's really trying to change their world around. So thank you again.
Yeah, I appreciate you for being amongst the ones who want to heal, and that's Baba's job, and that's what this information is meant to do. So it's great to be in good company, because anybody who's being honest with themselves, if they're sincere, that's what they're doing. That's what I'm doing. So it's just great to be in company of others who want to do that as well, of unwrapping and untwisting their minds in the confusion, and now you're being empowered, and not for the purposes of just wanting to be on top of something. It's just for the purposes of just wanting to be in your right place and time. All right. And so much we have been displaced. So it's great to, as we get a little closer where we should be. All right. And realizing that our stories are interconnected in certain places. And when we start seeing that interconnectedness, we start respecting each other and ourselves so much more. So it's great to be in good company. All right.
Rahubat. I wanted to say something, if you don't mind.
Of course, you can say something.
All right. There is this Mukdal. His name is Kufu.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Philly. I'm not sure if anybody knows him, but he actually walked with the master teacher, and he taught me a lot about what he used to say to him and how the relationship was and everything like that. He said the last thing I remember him saying was the period between 1973 and 2003. Those that's the gap where new souls come into this world, and I just happened to be 1999. So I'm like, all right, this is my fresh start. I guess I'm doing fine, but I feel like only I can determine that. A lot of things I'm taking in. A lot of people are saying I'm learning fast, like especially at my age. I just want to keep elevating and getting better. You got any advice for me?
All right. So I would say just because somebody work with the teacher, don't take their word for it. You go and find out exactly where, because I actually heard the opposite. After 1973, there's no more new souls. That's why we're learning so much quicker. We all are, a lot of us are on our final incarnations. So it's important that you read the Master Secrets. The Master Secrets is all about rounding yourself out. It talks more about exactly what you were talking about. So 1973, that's when the first golden children were being born again. All right. Um, and when you learn about the golden children, you start learning about the Mafkuzet, and these are like that ancient power that we once had. That many children are again being born with their Mafkuzet active. All right. Not everybody born after 1973 is a golden child. He made that very clear. They just started being born after that time. And there's a concentrated effort of cutting, like sabotaging these children before they find out who they are, because they're being influenced by the fire children to destroy themselves. All right. So it's like that's the whole point of, to respect each other. Is very important to respect each other, but it's also very important to make your own link to the facts. All right. Because even the way I link to certain information is really for me, because I was like looking at the chants, and the way I relate to Panadado might be slightly different than the way you relate to Panadado. The same way if me and you have the same mother, our relationships, because we're different beings, our relationships would be slightly different, even though we both same mother. All right. And if you think you're just going to be close to me and that's going to make you close to mom, you cheating yourself out of your own connection to your own mother, which we share the same mother, but you don't just sit close to me and ask me, oh, what do you think mom would like? How about I would just say, why don't you go get to know mom yourself? All right. And you have the opportunity to. All right. So, and Baba also said that the generations will be getting older and older. All right. And they will be getting like smarter. So a new soul, wouldn't necessarily, like a soul that's been seasoned. All right. It's coming back. And that's why a lot of us are coming back older. All right. So I would just say that it's very good to make relationships with each other. It's also very important to take time to yourself and to make those connections. All right. And that's like not just sitting here reading the books together, but also if you have time, sitting down reading the scroll to yourself, because sometimes the scroll might open up differently. All right. And then sometimes people could be, mistaken. Like I've said things that the way I understood it at one time. I've also said things and somebody asked me a question and I said, oh, that didn't actually make sense, because it's how I understood it. And if the person didn't have the sense to ask their own questions, they was actually able to help me, and indirectly I could have misguided them, not on purpose, but it happens from time to time. And that's why it's not about like, oh, this person walked in the best of intentions. Sometimes you could go back and be like, oh, that's what it meant. You could even your mind could do that to itself at times. So I would just say the most important thing is for you to take time and not put yourself at the mercy of another person who's just studying just like you. That's
Oh,
my
wait.
best.
How it's at?
Yes. Tower tap to you for your question. All right. Anybody else? All right. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to come together and spend time and read the scroll. And I appreciate everybody who's really doing the very best to transform into the best versions of yourselves in our one collective body. I look forward to meeting everybody again on Thursday. We're going to read another scroll. The chat will remain unmuted for today, and then we're going to go back to muting the chat until our next reading. All right. And I shook my son.
I'm sure